So today we're just starting on a portrait for a commission. It's a dog portrait. So yeah, first thing I want to do is try to rough in all the line work and stuff. If you're wondering what brushes I'm using Pencil Brush 5 HB from my brush sets, which, if you're interested, you can find on my website. They give a really good, nice feel and texture, as you'll see throughout this. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's go. There'll probably be a lot of rough sketches and chopping and changing throughout this, to be fair. I've done some studies in my sketchbook already, but it's been a while. Might take my brush size just a bit bigger, start off broader, and narrow it down later on, refining it. Yeah, so this is the first time I'm trying this setup, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it works well. Then from the snout, we're going into the mouth, and mouth comes down. Probably just not that wide. Razor up. Turn the opacity up. There we go. Brush. I'm thinking it should fall about there, really. Then obviously gravity is gonna take the skin from the bone, so it sits lower than the skeletal structure. And this area is much deeper, much longer, which I want to make sure I get right in this. Obviously, we're working digitally today, so there's a bit of leeway for me to get things right size and proportion. Just want to rough it in first and then see what I sort of get from that. Yeah, I'll probably go a bit quiet throughout this, but it is the first time drawing and talking, so normally I just sit and just don't have to talk, but today's a little bit different. So over time, I will definitely be working on my commentary, I suppose. Right, if the snout's that big, I think you have to take the head structure a bit bigger still. For an eyeball by there, and then you got your sort of skeletal structure comes round sort of like this way. And that's your canine sort of bit by there. And you got that bone somewhere by here. That comes up and joins up there. So that's sort of like the rough skeletal structure underneath. I it's probably making a mess of my canvas, but that's all part of it. The eyes sort of coming in over like that then. Yeah, so normally I'd either sit in silence or listen to some music, but sadly can't be doing that at the minute. As in listening to the music. To be fair, I don't often. I like to think I do, but I just leave the radio on, sort of thing. Parts I was having trouble with in my studies, in my sketchbook, was definitely the snout area. The snout and like the jaw of the dog was challenging for me. So it's something I wanted to really focus on and get right. Also, the head is like wider than I initially anticipated it being. You've got the brow sort of area in here. And you got a lot of muscle on top. Because that will go into the bite. And already I've drawn it too big, so I haven't got space for my ears to come in. I'm thinking that's got something else happening by there, something by there. Then that's got that bit here. I think that will be going for that. Nose is probably a little small. Doing something more like that. Maybe even more. See how it looks in a minute. Right, let's Control T or Command T, depends on what operating system you're on. Probably something like that. And now looking at it, you know, you can see where you've gone wrong, or see what needs improvement. Thinking in the eye area, down to the snout. But once we get all of our, shadows and stuff in later, it'll hopefully come together. Just above the eye, it sort of comes in, changes a bit of direction there. Laps underneath, top of the nose. Up like that. Some indentation there. Coming round. Going by there. As with any sort of commissioned work or painting, you want to get it right. But this one in particular is something I really want to impress on and try and push my skills, techniques, and creativity, because it's a piece for a close friend of mine whose dog had passed away recently. So it's going to be a gift. So it's like has that special extra meaning to it, and don't want to let this team down, sort of thing. Is that bit okay? Maybe everything gets pushed over a bit more. Sort of that potentially. Then this comes in, that comes out. That's gonna be the fur coming down there. Yeah, you could tell it's been a while since done a portrait sort of work, especially on an animal or dog. My lines are all over the place. Normally, I'm not this heavy-handed and messy, and I like to not be, especially when I keep things quite loose and light and stuff. And that's something I can work on as well. So my process is pretty much quite similar to Aaron Blaze, creature art teacher. Because I've you know a keen watcher of his work and always trying to pick up bits from him and learning from him as well as some other great artists like Steve Houston. So if you're looking for better artists to learn from, go check them out because they are masters of what they do. Yeah, with all this talking stuff, I've definitely got to work on my tone and delivery of my speech, text, sort of thing. It's all it'll all be a nice learning process. Yeah, I could see that now needs to come up the right more. Hasn't sort of picked up that perspective as much. He can go somewhere like there. Sure that line's following underneath. Something more towards something like that, but obviously not to that extent. This is wider for sure. It probably comes to the end of the edge of that eye. Instead, definitely that nose needs to come over, I think. Rough it in like that. Nose goes back to there. But obviously, if you're drawing animals or humans or it's basically the same skeletal structure, as in we all have the same parts, just in a different sort of way. So you just try to refer back to human structure. I'm thinking, okay, our nose, our snout compared to the dog's, this is obviously longer, but it still functions all in the same sort of way. it doesn't swing out as much. It's more like that. That's more here, a bit more there, probably a bit more like that, and that sort of got a leaf, we've got like some bush in front, and all that come round, something towards that, something like that, maybe just make it a touch smaller. Once again, clicking on the layer, Command T to transform, free transform, and then enter to finish that off. Trying to envision rule of thirds in my head to get that eye line sort of on that top third. So sort of like, that's not third, but you know, we're looking at that sort of thing. Alright, I think for a first rough sketch, it was pretty okay. And now I'm going to get into the second layer, and the next layer, refining it, tweaking it, and then we'll go from there. So we're back. I've just made a couple of tweaks with my broader brush strokes just to really dial in the proportions and get some scale issues correct. I notice when I draw a lot of the times I overemphasize some subtle nuances, and I over accentuate or overdo them, which I don't need to. But yeah, so I've just I've just put on a new layer on top of the base layer, drop the opacity down of that base layer, and now go in to refine things a bit more. I want to still keep it quite light, but with a bit more precision. And to be fair, I'm not sure I'll probably start in the eyes. I think that was already a bad mistake to start off, because if that's that eyeball needs to be in the centre, then that would probably be the eyeball right there. That comes underneath like that, and we've got a bit of light. That's obviously going to be darker, and that might have a bit of, certainly have some light catching the bottom lid and here. But yeah, is that about right? It's probably a little bit high. It is a slightly higher in the reference. Up, around, down, that top darker shadow of the lid underneath. I like to get a bit more of a nicer line than that. There we go, something a bit more like that. And once again, gonna catch some light sort of by there. And I do want to take my time with this version of, sketching it in and drafting it in. The more I can get right early on, the easier the rendering will become. A bit of some sort of shadow part there, and obviously coming out here. I think that sort of part catches light, and that doesn't there. This bit up to here sort of all into a bit of shadow. So that sort of head comes in, top of the skull comes in a bit more like that there. And that's where the ear sort of peels off. Get this area right, maybe you do that a bit more, too sharp. So that. That flowing. Comes round. From the eye we got sort of like this bit part bone like that. So what's happening over here? And that comes round, obviously. A dog's skull, the sides of the eyes don't join up. That's probably why you see a bit of a darker patch in here. And then that will join up. Go back in round like that. Something more like that in there. Certainly get more of that. That might be a bit smaller. This area might be even push the nose even further along. It's about there. Nose. Not too much space for that. That's all. It's sort of like a highlight, isn't it? This flap of the nose comes down more. Pretty much touches that bottom part. Right there. That line set out wrong, so it needs to join up, but unless it's that sharp, is it? Just get a bit more shallow, something like that there. Come round, then so it comes up. That right there. That is a bit out, and then so it dips in and back out. Other side of the nose. Up right here. Press. And that end right there, and probably do another pass. That, something like that. Look at that. It's nicer, isn't it? Coming together. Yeah, so it's very much a learning curve for me as well. I'm not saying I'm amazing, but I've got some technical ability, but all the time you're looking to develop and push yourself further, which is a sort of key part to this as well. I get to show you what I'm doing, and in that way I get to push myself to show up for you guys, as well as me showing up for myself and developing my skills. and learning off you guys as well, and then you guys learning off me, so it also works both ways. But yeah. So that one is there, and then it sort of goes out again, I think, something like that. That was like, that's exaggerated. It's probably a bit more flatter. You got this coming up, so by there. Is that really that wide out there? Potentially. I know we've got some fur in that sort of corner. I've got an itchy eye, itchy nose. This comes sort of subtle, like that. But then we have this sort of line thing happening. So it wants to join up in by there. And then off that, you got that snout coming in. Something like that. Comes up in like that. That one comes down. That. Then we need to watch how that is all got a bit of tone to it. See underneath here we'll have some tone to it, but that we could focus more on the rendering part, which I'll probably have to do tomorrow. I'll get it all done today. What is the time actually? Yeah, I doubt I'll get that all done today. So probably not even tomorrow. Probably finish this off on a Sunday sort of thing. Don't like how I've not rounded that off. There we go. That's better, isn't it? That's nicer. See, I've started picking up that. There we go. That Aaron Blaze does in all of his videos as well. So yeah, if I get to a point where I can just sketch and talk comfortably, I think that we'll be in a really good place. So we can talk about all sorts and sort of kill two birds with one stone sort of thing, which would be great. Yeah, it's coming on nice. And within this sort of pass of this sort of sketch, I do want to try and get in some texture with fur and just indicate that ever so slightly. But I think it's feeling good, it's feeling nice. There we go, that's better, like that. Jumping around the canvas, no real sort of process to what areas I do first or second. I mean, if I was working in my sketch pad or sketchbook, I'm just doing human portraits. I'd have more of a system. Obviously, do a bit more of that than this sort of stuff. If you're wondering what tools I'm using, I'm in Photoshop. It's a software, and I'm drawing on a Wacom Cintiq 16. So yeah, it's a big tablet drawing tablet. That's what I was trying to say. It's really handy. It's a good size. It is portable. You can take it places, but you don't want to be sort of picking up and packing it up every day. Even that, it is doable. It's not their biggest one in their range, but I think it's a great size for this kind of work. It's probably similar sort of working space as your A4 sketch pad. Yeah. And you just want to sort of focus on hair direction as well. This sort of sketch. So I'm getting more of a feel for it, for sure. Loosening up. I probably should have done a couple more practice sketches before, but sometimes you just got to get into it because you need to get it done and meet deadlines. Don't think that's so rounded out here. I think that needs to be a bit more sharp and a bit more like that, and that part a bit darker in there. Maybe something I could look at potentially later on. Now, obviously, the eyes are always a real key, important part. It's always like the make or break, isn't it? Okay, so I probably wouldn't normally put them in this early, but covered. You get a bit of a shadow across the top of the eyeball from the eyelid. And then the opposite side to the light, you'll probably catch a bit more a tone in the eye as it's a cone shape. My technical terms do suffer, so you'll have to bear with me while I try and explain. Probably don't want it that bright, but there we go, something like that, and then put the highlight by there. Then we've got a bit of one by there. And it's probably just a bit lighter by there as well. And obviously this part's nice and light beneath. And we got like a touch on this side. One by there. That's too big. It's just slightly bigger than that one. And then we got some light catching here. And you can just about see the white of the eye in there, but it's obviously not that prominent, so just go over it, a bit of that. Potentially come back to that later for sure. Let's get these nostrils filled in. you go. Probably just take it up a bit more. That there. Once again, you're going to have to excuse the lack of commentary or the quality of it. It is something I do want to improve on and will improve on. I will improve on it. Yeah, and for me, it's also just trying to get a solid routine now of what type of stuff I'm pushing out on content-wise, and I think this could fit in quite nicely, like a live stream or a pre-recorded drawing session to go alongside all the design stuff and the creative and all the other creative stuff that that I want to do, or that I currently do as well. So if you haven't checked it out, at Design by Raf on Instagram and across TikTok and other social media. 1 second, doorbell's gone, I'll be back. Here we go, we're back on a roll, and I'm actually really happy with how this is. I say really, I'm happy with how this is coming out at the moment, currently. Especially for having been a while in sketching. It's sort of surprising myself, actually. If I could do this more often, imagine. Get that sort of shape to the ear, so it comes up like that. Bit about that. Comes up and across. And we got this sort of thing. The hair going by there. Yeah, it's probably going to be a long video, and I do apologise, but I hope this is insightful and just helpful to anyone who's looking to improve their drawing or just looking for something to watch and pass the time with. I very much appreciate you spending your time watching this. So this dark bit, then you got like a lighter sort of section in there, and then we got some dark bits in here and underneath like that. Sort of comes around there. I don't want to lose the sort of like quality of my line making whilst I'm shading in some shadow areas. This falls into shadow and that. It's a bit more straighter than expected. It does come off this because that bone. Sometimes it's quite hard to see. I've got the screen in front of me with my reference image, and I've got the light set up and trying to sort of block out the light and look at the screen. It's a new experience for sure. down. There, tuck that in. Or maybe, no, that seems about right. And something like that. And then we got all the fur coming off here. Maybe it's not so. Maybe it's tighter. Maybe it is tighter. Then tiny little break in there. And that comes in. Up and across. Something a bit more like that, huh? And then fur. More clumps of fur. So yeah, we will be putting a background to this. I want to keep it pretty abstract in the background. I think the client potentially wanted like a building where they usually walk the dog. Which should be possible, but looking at the space might not be best practice to put that in there. But we can decide on that when we get to that sort of stage later on. That gives a bit of a shadow of that area there. It's definitely coming around in this. So does that as well. Really looking. Really looking to like not draw the symbols like with eyes. If you were to draw a symbol, you'd if I find some space here, you'd probably just do that, wouldn't you? And for a nose, you probably do something like that. Mouth. But what you want to really do is really look at your reference and don't draw what you think it is. Draw what is actually there. Really look at the shape of things. A lot of it could be counterintuitive. Okay. This is coming out much better than all my studies. My studies are only quick and sort of like to get a feel for where the proportions were. Didn't want to spend too much time really refining them, but this sort of all falls into shadow, doesn't it, in by here. I'll see if I can put the reference image on the screen as well for you guys, just so so you can see it as well. This probably gets a bit more shadow as it turns into the light. Also, you got a bit more grey hair on the chin. Hair coming off by there. Like a highlight of hair here. Flows into like that. Then we sort of got this sort of shape coming round. It all feeds out under here. All fluffy and longer. Stuff like that. Yeah, it's always going to be a challenge to do hair. You're going to focus on the clumps of hair first and then probably go into it after. But you can see sort of like how I render hair later on in this video. So as we progress to the next sort of stage. But like I said at the start, I want to get this sketch really nailed on and as good as I can. So when it comes to rendering, very informed in what and where things should fall and sort of go. And if I ensure that the drawing is good, should sort of mean and lean towards the fact that the next stage would be as good. It's a bit of like a quality insurance policy. Definitely need to work on my line work on when I'm going away from myself rather than when I'm dragging in, when I'm going out. Well, going not away, but right to left, doing that sort of motion. Instead of left to right, it's nice and easy. Right to left, it's needs a bit more control on that. It's pretty, on my reference image, I put it into Photoshop so I can really see the contrast in the light and dark areas. And because it's so dark in this sort of section, you can't see much about fur and where it's going. Let's have a look at this. That in the eye. It's really darkened off in that corner, isn't it? What's really gonna make this make a difference here? There is some sort of it's probably not as indented as that. More subtle. Certainly does come round closer. You have this sort of shape. We have some light, probably much lighter than that, but let's do it again. Some light, there we go. Yeah, that line's probably a bit more curved and straight. Then we have that sort of bit coming in. that sort of area there. This won't be as pronounced, but I've just darkened it. But then that part's all into shadow, a bit more shadow over this side. We got where the ear falls. Let's see. Yeah. Better. So no, that's that sort of part there, and then it therefore falls into a bit more shadow, doesn't it? I think. As we come around. That bit, that's definitely darker up there. And sort of a bit more dark. There's a bit of a light spot, and then falls into more. Yeah, that's some awful shading. But they have slackened off and sort of ruined it by doing that, haven't I? So I'll try and keep things light and delicate. I try to follow the form as much as possible with my strokes, but when I'm roughing it in, I just tend, as I have done today, just sketch quite flat and linear. We've got some. There. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Do I want to take it further? Yes. Just thinking about time constraints and other stuff like that. Maybe I could block in some local colour whilst I'm at it. There we go. Let's try and open that one. Okay, that's opened. I need to turn the brightness up on that screen because that light right in my face. Right then, yeah, I haven't sort of thought about what brush I'm going to use. Got a nice ink and pen. I don't want to do that. Maybe might just go with this sort of pencil brush, but let me see what other. A bit of a bluish side, isn't it? That's fair. Right, if that's the rate, that's going to be too slow. Look out. Yeah, I can't paint with that. But I think that colour is pretty close. I think all these are going to be quite slow. Yeah. I believe they're all... The previous one, first one I went to was you can mix it, so it'll stay wet on the page. And I don't really want to change it, actually. I can still pick the colour up if I darken it there. If I change that, it sort of blends quite nicely in there. See? Cool. See what... It's like canvasy brushes. Now I'm gonna keep it normal. I mean, to be fair, if I'm just laying it in, that sort of... Oh, it's quite nice. Yeah, it's too dry. It's too cloudy, isn't it? Let's see. In my brush sets. It is a good brush, it's just very versatile. You could go darker and stuff, heavier. Page, take it down underneath, let's just rough it in with this. Get a local colour in first. So local colour is the colour of your subject or that you're painting before it has sort of like light hitting it. Obviously you need the light to see the actual subject colour, to see the subject. But local colour is like the actual colour without shadows and other reflected light and stuff like that, because that will alter the appearance. Just roughing this, get this colour in. Been a while since I've done any sort of sketching on my tablet. Actually, colour work never tend to get that far. It's enjoyable. Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying this one for sure. Got to keep an eye on the time. So I've got other commitments as well today. But at the same time, I'm sort of in a good flow here, and I don't particularly want to pick it up on the next in a bad sort of state. These edges will need some work later on. Do I keep them sharp? I blur them a bit more like that. These here, we're going to definitely take it in, refined more stroke. I definitely want to get some nice light and shadows in. Highlights and shadows in, sorry. Light and shadow, highlights and shadows in, I think. Before we wrap up today. Yeah, so I'm not totally using a total black here. I'm sort of in and around this greyish and a blue sort of tint area, sort of tone. New layer, set it to multiply, keep the same colour, and this will just darken up anything underneath. So I'm going to probably go quite broad with my strokes for this. Try and be quite painterly, potentially, before going down and refining it. So sort of working like well, I say that I haven't even finished my local colour layer, but I'll be working like a sculptor, and we need to get this local colour finished. Need to do the eyes and tongue. Go. I think it's a bit brown. Okay, let's try this. I think so. And then with taking that colour as a sort of guide, tone as a guide, we can just add a bit more brown and take a bit lighter, just a touch. I can see that's around the snout area. Lightly just put that in. Like so. Across on the top. The nose. So. Around like that. Let it sort of fade out. There we go. Like that. Now, some of this could be reflected light, to be fair, but I think a bit of brown around there. Just sort of just dusting that in. Right here on the chin. Around anywhere else. Back to this, and we bring up a bit more of a grey. Oh. Shit. That was on my... Looks a little bit too much, is it? Always go back to it and adjust it later on. Now we're getting a bit grey on the gum. That could also be to do with the light. Yeah, if I can get some adjustments there. And I think around the eyes a bit grey as well. I mean, as in the local colour is a bit more grey. Even though it is picking up light, I think it's also picking up. Chin needs to be the greatest, but it's also picking up a bit of local colour as well. Chin needs to be the greatest part, really, isn't it? Let's just sort of fade it up and out around nostril, the nose, like that. Then there. You got a bit on the top as well. We got some more on that side, I think. Maybe ever so slightly around the top of the eye. Now for the tongue, keep it in the same sort of overly saturated. Let's see what this looks like. Maybe a bit more pink. Try and keep things as clean and close to the edge as possible. So I'll take the line work off later. I'll come through. I'm gonna just add a bit more red saturation. Let's try and look at my own tongue then. To that part there. And that snout, I think, might exaggerate it a bit, but I'm going to just go with a red tint instead of a blue in certain, just to add a bit of variation to it. I think, maybe a bit more purple, sort of in between, but it just gives it that sort of I think it's definitely got a bit more of a red, purpley tint. It's very subtle, like it is subtle. I do that, but then I can just play around with sort of like closer to the nostril by here. Probably gonna see a bit more red, rouge. Maybe go this way. The spectrum, yeah, it's not dull. And then towards the usual. Probably seeing more of that sort of colour. Then you got some good reflected light on that. Just breaks it up a bit more. Now back to the multiply. Let's get that going in. mean, this could be. Go a bit wider, broad with it. That's certainly a darker patching by there. That sort of just fades up like so. Then this area by there. So takes a bit towards the back. Certainly nice and dark in here. And eye out, and then all that section. It's got a bit of light in that part, and then this is pretty much all the same in here. Like so. Am I not screen recording? Is it stopped? Bollocks. You missed out a lot, didn't you? Balls. Oh, God. Get off my... Oh, it's pissed me off, that. QuickTime. New. Oh, file. New. Oh, I can't. That's storage, is it? Let's have a look. Why isn't it letting me screen record? Oh, that's strange. Oh, it's already doing it. That's why. We're still screen recording. Okay. Didn't see that happening. There we go. Thankfully, we're still going. Sorry. Anyway, so that comes in, and I think that does darken and come up a bit lighter, doesn't it? That does darken a bit. That does come up a bit lighter that way. And then we got sort of this bit from under the chin. That sort of comes out. Fade that out with everything but there. And already it's coming on, isn't it? And then it comes in here, and then this bit gets quite dark. Underneath. there. That sort of where the blend I was talking about, where I couldn't quite see hair direction, comes in here. Don't want to rush, but I do want to make sure I get my highlights and shadows in, for sure. Next time we do this, hopefully, I'll have a bit more to talk about. Make sure that quality of line still rings true. That comes up there. So pretty pleased with how this has come out, actually. Yeah, this is coming good. Good, it's coming good. Look at that. Ba, ba, ba. Maybe overdone it slightly there. Nice. It's not really high. Here, let's get this. Just like that. Tap it along. Scrape the surface. It's nice and light. Still got quite a broad stroke. Clean that up later. That. There. And jump back across this side. So define. That area. This is getting a bit trickier to read, I think. That mark helped, I think. Lighter. Well, help right there. Obviously, we've got that line work right here, so can't quite see what I'm exactly doing, but I think I've got a good idea. That there, and then and then that darker patch in by there. So the quality isn't. It's much more rough down the bottom. Which I probably didn't quite want. Still got a bit of darkness to it, and it lightens up a touch. This bit's still dark. There. A bit more happening. There, some same. There. That's a bit more organic, isn't it? Like more natural. How I'm laying in this shadow layer in here. Maybe do that some more. That's what we'll sort of be doing when we define it a bit more with the overlapping and of different tones and colour. So it's not so uniform and smooth. Make a bit more of a natural sort of look. Yeah, nice. Let's save that. Right, let's put in some highlights. Okay. I should probably name my layers. But I need to get the habit of doing that. Right, that's still on. Good. Everything's still rolling. Perfect. Right. Overlay. Select your local colour. We'll see what this does. Right, we need to go lighter. Okay, of course. Silly me. Select that colour. I'm looking at the light. Is it it is outside, so you probably want to go a touch warmer, even though it does look a bit cool, but just go a touch warmer on the light. Maybe something like this. See how this affects it. Let's go a bit darker. That's too much. Yeah, quite possibly. To get a bit cooler. Let's see what a proper cool light does. See, I think it's got a bit of that, you know. But I don't want it to be too blue. Let's just go with the yellow. You could always change that change the hue and saturation later, if needed. I don't like how I started laying that in. I like that first mark, that was okay, that was good. Let's do this eye bit. Let's do this part by here. That's a bit light. It sort of travels up and around, doesn't it? Converges. Up and sort of around. Comes down. Definitely let's get the broader strokes in. And when I come back to it, I can probably instantly see what sort of works, what didn't. I mean, if I get the other one out. Now I could definitely see the highlights and shadows much clearer. much clearer. There we go. Big. That come over that way. Touch upon that. There. light on by there, then someone is here. On her ear, sorry, not his, her. Yeah, just keep it commentary. So when I'm putting in my highlights, once again, thinking about the hair, clumps of hair, especially in this area, to add the variation. So it probably is a bit overdone. Probably my brush is a little too wide. Let's bring it down. That's looking good. So that one sort of comes up. Then we got like another sort of highlighted bit here. This isn't perfect yet, but you can see what we're trying to just establish the bulk of it, the framework. It's all. And then we'll probably do another layer of high highlights and darker shadows. Didn't even put the shadow on the tongue. Oh, forgot about that. Sweet. Yeah, I think the colour of it might be a bit off. As in the highlight colour, but work on it. Will ring true, and it'll all ring true on it eventually. spot of colour by there. There. Nice. Yeah, I want to get the quality, sort of like laid in better, so it's not so muddy. See how that's just. Do you know why that's happened? Because it wasn't in overlay. That's why. And that's in overlay. It looks better, but it's not as bright as I want it to be. Let us image adjustments, hue and saturation. Let me bring this down so you guys can see it. Lightness, I'm going to bring that up. Touch. Probably give it a little more saturation like that. Hue stays the same. Just touch. There we go. Should be. That's a bit better. Prefer that. But now I might paint. Can't believe I didn't realise I wasn't even in overlay. Probably all screaming and shouting on the other end of this. It's better anyway. It hasn't really done much, has it? Maybe I need to do more. Yeah, I don't know how I didn't spot that. We'll continue. Just so I can see it a bit better and clearer. I'm going to just pop it. Pop it in this. Normal. I'm going to have to bring this to a close shortly and pick up at a later date. Don't really want to rush it too much, but I think we'll call it. Call it there, put that in overlay. Image adjustment, hue saturation. Now let's see. Okay, let's go off the page here. Let's have a look at that. It's better. I mean that sort of works better for me. Saturate more. No. Leave it by there. So your highlights are in. They're sort of already over the main piece, but highlights are in. I just want to adjust that shadow. What's the part that's probably not been highlighted that bit. And let's get this in here under his tongue. Under her tongue, Ella. Oh. And it's got a bit more around there and comes around a bit. Like that, I think. Save that. Perfect. We'll call it there for today. Okay, so we're back. So let's pick up where we left off. At the moment, we got our local color, our shadows, and our highlights. Just like that. I should really name these. Highlights and shadows. Next, we're going to go in with some darker shadows. Just like that. And with our brush selected, set that to multiply, get in our local color. And then we're just going to drop the local color a bit in value and go from there. Focusing on keeping everything light. On the stroke. See if it's making, how much difference does it make? It's making a little bit. I think we can go a touch darker perhaps. Maybe. A bit better. So basically what we're doing, we're working within the shadow area that we've already created. And we're just picking out the darker areas and laying them in. And there it is, under the eyeball here. There's a touch of a bit more, just ever so slightly in there. In this ear area. As so. And then going over to that right hand side here now. And just getting the darkest parts in there. And now the left hand side of the eye. A little bit of something above here. Yeah, so I'm trying to keep it broad in the sense of not getting caught up in too much detail. Sometimes I might wander off because I might forget later. So I tell myself I need to do it now, but always try and keep it broad and then work it into more detail. It's much darker than the rest. But then when you take off all the line work, you'll see all the areas that we've missed out on our rendering, and then you're gonna have to go back in and go over them and refine the edges and stuff. So we've still got some way to go with this. Under the chin, get shadow. And now into the main bulk of the fur. Consciously, I'm just gonna try and block in some of the clumps of fur, so it's not so uniform. I'm not doing this with much precision, just more of an overall feel to it. I mean, some areas that are more obvious and quite literal, then I would try and stick to it because they define the overall likeness to the portrait. But other than that, just go in and do some parts that are darker, some parts that are lighter, etc. Yeah, it'd also be great to get feedback from you guys and see what you guys want to see in the future. As explained previously, it'd be great to do more of this kind of stuff. That depends if it helps you out, which I hope it does. At least you get to see my process, and maybe you learn some different techniques and tips along the way. If you maybe you're just starting to get into Photoshop, maybe you're very accomplished within Photoshop, or maybe you just want to pick up some more drawing, sketching techniques and skills. Or maybe you're more into the design sort of side and you want a bit of a change up in what you're watching. But it'd be great to hear back from what you guys think. And once again, we're going into this dark bit of fur now, so I want to try and make it gradual, but without just aimlessly filling it in. I want to try and get a sense of these clumps of fur that will be in there. If you haven't already, you can obviously go check out my Instagram as well. That's where the most of my sort of content and work goes. YouTube is something I want to try and get into doing more with YouTube Shorts and just long form content, and just trying to make everything fit in a nice ecosystem so it's handier and a nicer workload and more efficient for me. But then it varies the content and stuff I can provide for you, because obviously I wouldn't be able to do this on an Instagram reel. Couldn't show you the whole process, but YouTube allows me to do that, of course. And hopefully by doing this, I improve my skills as much as you improve yours. That'll be a real winner, you know? But the plan for the YouTube side of things is just to not just do art stuff, but also design stuff, graphics for t-shirts, hoodies, posters, pretty much anything that's creative, and anything that I feel like when I wake up, I suppose. Anything that I'm sort of got a vague interest in, I'd like to talk about it and cover the topics. And then it just, I suppose, see where it all ends up. So now I think I'm going to go in with a bit more of a focus, still on the darker shadows, but a bit more of a focus to where the actual shadows are on the reference. And it's just picking off where to start. I think I was starting around the chin area. I think, but with all the line work, it's still a bit messy for me. But let's go for it anyway. Maybe let's turn down that bottom one. That top line work, let's just ease it out to about 50. Let's see what that looks like currently. Okay. Why is this set to normal? Oh, that's the line work one. That's why. Doing it on the wrong layer. Silly. Sort of shape, just going in and looking where the different sort of shapes and looking at the different shapes of the darker shadows now and going in with a bit more attentiveness and awareness. Probably not the right words to use, but we'll go with it. Of course, are you going to get a nice shadow over there? Real shadow there. Anyway. Front nose is definitely more in shadow with a darker tone. Especially this middle section. Not afraid to go a bit bit darker there. There's something by there that comes across. That nose. We'll leave that for now, that side, like that. There. Certainly goes darker. That patch is certainly darkest. I think that's the main bulk of everything. Let's go look at the ears. Comes up and over. And we're back. So, looking at the darker shadows. And we're just thinking about how the fur interacts with the rest. Piece. I think what I might do is I may put in some highlights first. I mean, yeah, it's quite hard to look at the reference with that light on. So, yeah, I'm going to put in some brighter highlights, and then potentially go back into some darker shadows. We need to do some bounce light and reflected light as well. I do apologise. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is add a new layer. Set the layer to overlay once again. I'm going to name it High Highlights. Or you can name it whatever you want. Bright highlights, high highlights. Let's save it as well. Select your local colour. We went warmer with it, didn't we? Bring that up. See how bright this goes. Let's have a look. That is on overlay. What's it like on normal? Yeah, it's on. Perfect. So that's what we gain. Okay. So now I just want to follow where my brightest highlights are. Don't want to overdo it. You want to do it quite fairly sparingly. So it has maximum effect. Once again, I'm just trying to brush it in a directionally as to where the hair is flowing. Then we're getting a really bright highlight on the snout. All across here. That might have been overkill there, but we'll work around it. I mean, there's a bit more highlight here, but it's not super heavy. We got there, and then on the ear, above the eye, left. Just touch that up a bit more. Lower lid. Good a little bit. Don't want to go too heavy on the left hand side because our light's coming from the right. So you get less light on the left hand side. Top of the nose. Now that is looking way too pink with that overlay on. So that local colour might have to change. Yeah, that is too pink for sure. And then see this sort of rendering needs to improve. That's just a mess. That is messy. Yeah, we need to be more systematic, delicate, and considerate in and how we place our line. That's probably a bit too bright, but on the highlight by there, but we'll push it for now. Bottom of the chin. Once again, lighting from the right, so your right hand side is going to get a bit more than your left. Get a little bit of highlight in here. Get a bit more on that side. Across that fur. And then I think some of these shadows are a bit out of place. Shadow needs to be taken back. And it's not as brown up here either. Sorry, I was just trying to block the light and look at my reference there. Yeah. Okay. We do need to go over a lot of these shadows as well, I think. But what I'm going to do is put a background in. Probably going to go something along that colour. So I like to have some contrast. I think it's good practice. So whenever you have like a highlighted side, you want to go with a darker background, and then the opposite and vice versa. When you have a darker subject matter, a lighter background. So you got shadow on your left in the majority. So probably go in a bit lighter on the left hand side, just to make it pop a bit more. And we'll keep it a loose colour for now. Because I haven't really thought about what I'm going to do with the background. I just want to get it in so I can understand what I'm going to do with reflected light and stuff like that. And then a bit darker from the right hand side. But that's a spectrum we're playing with, and then that part probably looking brighter. Okay. Reflected light or bounced light. It's the same thing. Basically, what it is just light is bouncing or light is hitting the environment, and that will be reflected onto the subject matter. So if you're in a red room or have red walls and there's a lot of light coming in, that light will bounce off and the colour will be picked up onto the subject. Sort of like as if you had a mirror, but not as reflective as having a mirror in a room, so and so. For instance, if you put like a glossy piece of or any sort of material that's got a white gloss to it in any room, you'll see some sort of reflection within it. That was a very poor, very, very poor explanation. But see, if you could tell, it's my first time. I promise there's a lot of knowledge and I will get better at delivering it. That is one of the aims. Now, I don't want to overdo it with reflected light. Once again, I'm going to have to cover up my light source here. There's a lot happening around the snout. Along that right hand side. So take the value. Then we work it in the green sort of area here. Then we sort of adapt it like that. Now, once again, it's been a while since I've done this sort of stuff. Maybe can I do it with a blending mode? Is there like this won't be multiply. It won't be that. Like if I took a variant. I'm just testing stuff out here. That's way too saturated. Okay. Does that work out better than doing it on normal? I don't know. We'll go to normal. We'll just work as we have been, maybe a bit more. That sort of zone. The ear's gonna get a lot because it's the first thing that the light sort of gets in contact with. I can see that getting quite saturated as well with colour. What I want to try to avoid is the image becoming a bit muddy with tone when we add this reflected light. So it's too heavy in there. I'll come back in a second and we'll work on this reflected light because at the moment I'm in a bit of trouble with it. It's not sort of laying in as I want. I need to just figure it out first and then I can come back to it, I think. So we're working on this reflected and bounce light, aren't we? Maybe that's too green. I might just start it over again. Oh, what have I done there? Oh no, I hate when I do that. It's just annoying. Right. So we'll close it down and now. So there we go. Went into panic mode. What I'm gonna do, get my razor, raise that part there. We want it subtle, working in the grey areas and working in the greys here. It does get lighter, doesn't it? Certainly. Just a little. Might have overdone that, but I think that's okay. No, this one's gonna be a bit more something like that. This is way too bright compared to my reference. Need to go in with shadow and really create that. Need to sort that and front lip area out. Anyway, back to it. Just come across with a bit of bounce in here. Take that brighter as we move up. Maybe touch darker on here. Don't oversaturate it. Something that does alright. That was a nice mark. I was happy with that one. That is too bright. This section is way too bright. That'll need to be altered later. I'll probably forget. No, I shouldn't forget. It'd be bad of me to forget. And I think catches a little bit here. Go a little bit brighter. Even though it's not going to be strong enough to really get brighter, so it's actually just leave it just like that. Subtle hint to it. And then maybe just a subtle touch like that. This rendering on the top of the snout here is pretty awful in my books. So let's try and fix that with some bounce light on top. Maybe a bit too heavy. That. Nice touch on the top. Like that. Here. It's too green, isn't it? Keep it in the grey sort of area. And just a hint, I think. Just a hint. Like so. Down here, just a hint of it. Now, normally you probably get a bit more closer to the ground, or closer to where the reflected light is. But obviously the fur is so dark, just not picking it up. Where the snout is a bit brighter, there's more light on the snout. But we can just maybe touch upon it a little bit. Just ever so slightly. So it's probably overdoing it a little bit much, but just maybe to dial it down. better. We're getting a little bit up here, aren't we? Yeah. Slightly. Something like that. Okay. I've got to think about the length of this video as well. I forgot this could be taking me hours, but it's because I'm not good enough yet. But we're going to get there. We'll get there. I think now I'm just going to take off my guide. And you see the difference that made then. And basically just going in over the top and working it all to a nice piece. Pretty much. I'm going to start with the eyes because I feel like I can get them up to scratch pretty nicely. Light coming from the right, so this side is going to be darker, isn't it? Go way down in here. Even darker than that. Less saturated. Same sort of thing over there. And we are going. Got the slightest right bottom coming in. Probably take it further. Pretty a lot of darkness around the top. And I mean, the highlight's going to make everything. Nowhere near that bright, still too bright. That's more like it. There. Couple of highlights. Gives it a lot of life when you add the highlights in. A lot of films tend to take highlights away out of the eye for a character that's not alive. So yeah, it's a good way to add life to your work. Sort of want to overdo the eyes, so I might just really come in and just give that highlight a bit more there. Probably go even darker. Probably should, but leave that like that and I'll work around it. This part's probably going to take quite a while. I'm just really rendering that fur and hair and all the subtle value changes in there. Bring it up a touch. Too far out, I think. Just more. All of that in it, really. Then you sort of do your first strokes on the borders of where the colours combine, because then you could see the overlap, and then that sort of creates that fur effect. Like so. Now I'm going to be bouncing around all over the place, really, without a name. Just doing what I feel I need to do. I don't want to overdo it in some areas. In some areas, you just be not sparing, but conscious when doing the fur sort of technique. Certainly in highlighted areas, be definitely trying to sell the effect more. This is certainly going to take a while. I can tell you that for a fact. Maybe start off with larger clumps, then go down. See, it gets all quite uniform quite quickly, doesn't it? You want to try and make it a bit more authentic, a bit more of a feel to it. There's a subtle, there's a bit of a highlight there, I don't know. Bits along here, get some highlights. And so, and like that. But you can see how my line's very, very uniform, isn't it? This part should be a bit darker as well. It's not as pronounced as that. So maybe go with this tone a bit more in and over it. Clump it. Like that. And something like that. By all means, if you're drawing along with me, you're probably way ahead of me anyway. But by all means, if you fancy drawing along with me, please feel free to. It's all part of it. It's all part of it. Now you can sort of see in a highlighted area where the fur do see more of the strands of fur. Just trying to get that transition as natural as possible. Easier said than done for sure. And this is the most time consuming part I don't always like, but it's the part that sort of brings it together, doesn't it? No, we might get some of those brighter bits. Still within the fur. And we might even just bring up a bit of brightness here and there in the other fur. So you get some value sort of changes in that. But you want to mix it up. You want to have contrast with brush stroke, with color, with tone and value. You gotta have contrast with sharp and soft lines. That's what sort of makes a good piece overall. You get some rim lighting coming on, but you can do that at the end. I don't know why I started doing that now. It is a nice colour though, so I might just, on a new layer, I just do this patch here so we can refer back to it later. It's taxing on your hand for sure. It's certainly not as bright as we first went for. Turn it down a bit. Like so. Bit of value changes in here, I think. Also like that. We have got some nice bits to play with in here. Just yeah, I do appreciate this is going to be an extremely long video. It's probably going to be close. It's too long. Ideally, I'd get stuff like this done in about hour and a half eventually, but hour and a half, 2 hours. But this is going to be very extremely long. I might have to chop it up, but the idea was just to post it as raw as possible, so everyone can just follow along as and when they please. And you can see all what goes on behind the scenes, sort of thing. I might go back to that year after. Keep bouncing between stuff. Actually, let me just sort a couple bits out. Maybe some bit of fluff in here. There. Too uniform. A bit better. There we go. Also like that. Something along. Oh, silly rendering by there. That there. Which could be a hard area to tackle. So color value changes. Probably a bit too light for this side. It's still too light, I think. That's more. So what I'm going for. start to sort this side out. Darken it. Nice. Maybe a bit too saturated. Why aren't I just picking up the colour from that side and using it like that? There. I mean, once you get the eyes right and get them in well, it does make a big difference. But doesn't mean the rest of the piece should slack. I just feel like really have amazing, beautiful rendered eyes really brings it out, and there's loads of intricate parts. I know many people probably love drawing eyes to start off with and getting them right. I think it might be a bit too big on that side. Just get a bit more of a shape to them. Sometimes I want to try and work on not overly rendering things. I think I've overly rendered this. I want to be able to get the feeling across in the work with a couple of strokes. We're using value, tone, sharpness, and movement, you know. But then sometimes I want to be able to really render stuff down and pick up, the pores in someone's skin and stuff. We're a long way from that, though. Now let's put some highlights in. You know what? There is a bit of a blue highlight from the sky. This is what you can also do. Reflect the skylight in the eye sometimes. It works really well. You know, I might just do a little subtle. So you get a shadow from the eyelid, but then you could also just reflect a bit of the sky in the eye. Gives it that little touch of glassiness. Maybe. Oh, I can't undo that now, can I? Just did it on that side. It's all on the same layer. Oh, but you'll try and round it off. Cool. At least it gives that bit more gesture. And this side's slightly brighter as well. And these highlights are really going to help. With that. That's nice. That's nice. Probably a bit more. And like that. This green highlight up here is probably overkill. Probably too much saturation on that. We need to sort of define that skull a bit better as well, from where the ear connects. Just clean up this line at the back. Like that. I mean, it's come a long way, and I'm proud of it so far. You can certainly get even more into it. I feel like this comes down sharper. That's what I think it does. Right, just because I don't want this to drag on even more, I might. I do want to document the whole thing though. I can only apologise for being so slow with this. And you guys having to watch me in silence, basically, concentrating without much commentary. It's probably going to be the worst video ever posted, for sure. The lack of tonality in my voice as well. But if we can get a good image out of it, I don't see. Get a good image out of it. I hope it will be worth it then, you know? You got to working within the shadow values really. So of either side, some bits are a little bit brighter, some bits a bit darker, just to create that sort of texture. So that's like my base now. I might go a bit brighter, so that bit, and then bring it down. As so. Nice, I really like that mark there. Well, it probably was in the wrong spot, but you know, I'm happy. It sort of sends that message and communicates the idea of it's all about communication, really. As long as it communicates the idea, that's what matters. So I feel like I can do a lot by just getting these edges and the silhouette. Getting the silhouette, you know, with the Pia Fury, with those overhanging lines. I think that'll go a long way, like this section here. Got to think about where the clumps of fur are. There's less. Some might go in the opposite way, but got to be doing it in a sort of correct manner. Honestly, half all this video is probably going to be inaudible, just me talking to myself when I should be talking to you guys. But that fur, I like that fur. It's doing nice. It's doing well. It's doing some nice things to the image. It's not overdo it and over push it with the cartoony sort of furs. Try and keep it realistic. Keep it close to reference. But taking, my artistic approach to it. Otherwise, if you're not doing that, you may as well just take a photo of it. It's getting warm with that light, isn't it? Christ. Ooh. How long be running for? Okay. Probably. But that's what we're doing at the minute. We're just... Let me work on this left-hand side of the fur, and then we'll see what we sort of get to and get with the piece. I want to push it further, but I know you could be doing it all day, but you could be spending weeks on it, really, just rendering it all in the right places and stuff. But you also got to know when to call it finished, huh? Let's see what we've done. Just by rendering that fur, we've taken it from this to that. I think that's a really nice difference so far. Obviously, that nose still needs work. I want to get that, and that mouth area is looking very messy. So to sort that, creep in some lighter tones in here. But you don't want to cover the whole piece with that sort of fur technique. It'll be too much to look at, really. I mean, there are pieces that have done it and have executed it well, super realism and stuff like that. But I'm not at that level. I'm not at that level, so. Fur's longer down here. I don't know why I'm doing it so short. More clumpy as well. Maybe do a bit more wispy ones as well. Maybe later on. Bigger brush, perhaps. Yeah. But yeah, where your eyes drawn to on the piece is probably where you want to be adding the fur sort of technique in. So in and around the eyes, snout, face, and then go more broad down here where the rest of the body is. That's too bright, I think. It is too bright, isn't it? Need to tone that down. Maybe. Just done that, didn't I? And I've just gone over it. Fuming. It's about controlling value as well. I'll head back into that later. What I'm going to do a bit of work on the nose, take a break, probably do some stuff off camera, and then get back to it on camera, and then potentially look at wrapping it all up shortly. So his nose is just the wrong colour. Should be playing within this sort of zone, I think. Reflected light. And we want to pick up the texture on the nose. So for what I'm planning on doing is going to do these sort of like textural spots, and you can see what it's going to sort of create. And then once you do it by, this isn't going to be the final thing, I'm just showing you the technique I'm probably going to do. Just do a few down by there and there. It should all ring true, as long as they're too bright, aren't they? But yeah, that's the plan. Anyway, let me just do some sort of similar texture shading, rendering with the sort of green reflected light. I mean, that light on that side can definitely be maybe increased a touch. I don't know. It certainly goes up more here. Needs to be working in that sort of still darker, I think. Still darker in value, that sort of land there. Then we could bring it up, I don't know, like so. No, probably do the same. Just around there. You can just do a little something to indicate, not lighter, darker. On the inside, maybe should go there, like so. Still needs work. I'm going to leave that there for now, and I'll work on it a bit off screen and come back and hopefully wrap it up real quick by just going over some details, sorting out the background, and yeah, perfect.